Hi, class. In this lecture, I want to talk about a type of interest that isn't really used too much in the real world, at least from banks and stuff, or banks and financial institutions, but is an important building block to understanding simple finance, and then also the next type of interest we will cover in the next lecture. All right, so this lecture is about what we call simple interest. Obviously, it's a simple concept. All right, so we have two objectives in this lecture. First is we want to calculate simple interest for some given information. And then the second thing we want to do is we want to use what's called the future value formula. Um, what the future value formula tells us is like, if $1 million in 30 years from now, how much is $1 million worth in today's dollars? Okay, but we'll get to that example. Okay, so what is interest? Interest is the dollar amount that we get paid for lending money or that we pay for borrowing money. So the amount of money that we deposit or initially borrow is called the principal. So like for example, when I bought my house for whatever I paid for it. Okay, that is the principal amount, and then the interest is the money I owe on my mortgage, things like that. So the amount of interest depends on how much you borrowed, the principal, the interest rate. So like if they're charging 5% interest, 3% interest, things like that, which is given as a percentage and varies obviously from bank to bank, and the length of time for which the money is deposited. So simple interest, this is important, involves interest calculated only on the principal. Okay, so there's no interest on interest for this. Okay, so only calculated on the principal. Well, the simple interest formula is real easy. So the interest, the dollar amount of interest, is equal to the principal, how much you've borrowed or how much you have in the bank, times the interest rate, times some value of time, like in years or months. We'll talk about that. So the rate R is expressed as a decimal. Okay, so if they have 3% interest, you want to change it to 0.03. You don't want to plug in 3%. That's 3% with the percent sign. All right, let's do an example. Suppose you deposit $2,000 in a savings account at someplace called Hometown Bank, and this has a rate of 6%. Okay, find the interest at the end of the first year. So I'm going to put my $2,000 in the bank. I want to know how much interest I have at the end of the year. So to find the interest at the end of the first year, we simply use this formula. Interest is equal to principal times rate times time. Well, the principal was $2,000. The rate is 0.06. In time, in terms of years, well, it's been in there for 1 year. Okay, so that one, you just put the one in for time. So 6,000 times 0.06 times 1 is 120. So at the end of the first year, what's going on is the bank is going to give you $120 in interest for leaving your money deposited there. All right, let's do another one. So a student took out a simple interest loan for $1,800 for 2 years at a rate of 8%. So to purchase a used car, let's say. So let's find the interest on the loan. So to find the interest on the loan, again, we use the simple interest formula. So the interest you have to pay is principal times rate times time. Well, the student borrowed $1,800. The rate was 8%. And then the person is borrowing it for 2 years. So the 2 goes in for time. So 1,800 times 0.08 times 2. The interest on the loan that the student would have to pay is $288. Not too bad. All right, so now let's end talking about the future value. So the future value A, all right, so the future value of some amount of P dollars at the simple interest rate for T years is given by the following. So the future value is equal to the principal times 1 plus the rate times the time. Okay, so this is P is also known as the loan's present value. So how much the loan is worth in today's dollars. All right, let's do an example. So a loan of $1,060 has been made at 6.5% for 3 months. Okay, so let's find the loan's future value. Okay. So the variables are given as the following. The principal is equal to $1,060, how much the student borrowed. The rate is 6.5%. I'm going to change to a decimal. And now, how did we get T here? Time is equal to 1/4 or 0.24. Well, so time is the number of years. Okay, that's what T stands for. Well, if you're only going to do 3 months, well, 3 months out of 12, out of the 12 months, if you take 3 divided by 12 in your calculator, you get 0.25. Okay, so what you wouldn't want to put in for T is 3, okay, because that would be 3 years, but we're only actually going a quarter of a year. So the future value of the loan is equal to the principal times 1 plus the rate times the time. Well, the future value, or how much you have to pay on the loan, is equal to the principal here times 1 plus 0.065 times 0.25. Add these together, then add it to 1 and multiply in your calculator, and we're always going to round to the nearest cent. So rounded to the nearest cent, the loan's future value is $1,077.23. Okay. All right, now here's another one. Suppose you borrow $2,500 from a friend and promise to pay back $2,655 in 6 months. Okay, so what is the simple interest you will pay? All right, well, let's see if we can figure out what we know. All right, so we know the future amount you want to pay back your friend. All right, so that's my A, the future value, all right, which is $2,655. You know the principal. Okay, the principal was the $2,500 you're going to borrow from your friend. And you know the time frame. Okay, so how did I get 1/2? Well, you're going to borrow for 6 months. 6 months of a year, so 6 divided by the 12 months gets you 1/2 or 0.5. Now take these and plug them into your equation. All right, and let's see what you get. So future amount, 2,655, is equal to P times 2,500, and then times in parentheses 1 plus the rate, that's what we're looking for, times the time, which is 0.5. Okay, so to solve this, distribute the 2,500. Okay, 2,500 times 1 is 2,500. 2,500 times 0.5 is 1,250 times R. Then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to subtract this 2,500 over to the other side. So you get 155 is equal to that 1,250 times R. Now just divide by the 1,250 to both sides. Okay, this 1,250 will cancel out. 155 divided by 1,250 is 0.124, which is the equivalent of 12.4%. So to pay back that loan to your friend, the friend or you're willing to agree to a simple interest rate of 12.4%. All right, class should be equipped to handle the homework from this section.